Welcome back, people. This is Terrell. We back again with another episode of Real Talk Podcast. Today, we're talking about blackface and the history of blackface. So, when I just had a quick question before we started. When's the first time you guys ever experienced seeing that? Like, when did you first see blackface?
Um, I really couldn't give you like a specific date. um, I just remember when it happened, I was asking my cause I seen it while we was out and it was like on a TV where we were at. And I was like wondering like why they face was painted. Like, I didn't know if they were like doing something for the movie. I didn't even know it was a thing. I was mad young. I was like, I could have been like 11, like 10 or 11. So I didn't know that's what they were doing until a couple of years later, and somebody like explained the shit to me. We was watching an old ass movie. So yeah, but the very first time I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what they was doing.
Uh,
What
for
about you,
me,
Gibbs?
probably had to be probably like one of those earlier Looney Tunes, cartoons where it's just the big lips, the really dark face, and
Mhm.
I was a big Looney Tunes head as a kid, so I didn't know what I was watching. I was just watching it, but something's off, and that's different from every other character in the thing. So, but yeah, now they when they show those cartoons, they put it as a warning or a disclaimer that this was a different time, or and but they still have them over there. I think Disney Plus still has some of those. I don't know, or Hulu.
For me, I don't think like actually realizing is blackface was a different time than me actually seeing it. So I think the first time I seen it was probably Trading Places. I think that was the first time I saw um what blackface was. And then once you realize what it is, it pops out a little bit more. And then of course, studying film, you see it a lot more often. Um Yeah, I think the first time I actually saw it and noticed that it was blackface, and this was like years later after I probably saw the film, that I noticed it, and that was Trading Places with
I think
Eddie
the first
Murphy.
time I noticed it was like was the actual thing was like Bamboozled.
Yeah,
Spike Lee. I was like,
yeah.
oh, okay.
Because I think
I
that's
had to do
important.
my history. Like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, because I think that's important because I think we subconsciously see it all the time in what we watch, especially when we was young and don't really know the difference of what it is. And then to now in adulthood, where where we've talked about it or we've seen it, and somebody told us whatever the case may is, now we realize like, yo, that's blackface. We could point it out.
Matter of fact, the very first time I seen it, I didn't even I the Looney Tunes shit. He was chasing Bugs Bunny. He had like the shot, but it wasn't an Elmer Fudd joint, but it was like one of those shorts for another movie
Mm-hmm.
that I was watching. Like they'll play a little short before you get to the main movie. It was on that I seen it, but I still don't remember what the hell it was. But I didn't register it as that until you just said that though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, with me, I didn't really understand what it was when I first saw it. I saw it in cartoons first, but
They
I
get
had
you while
to,
you're young.
yeah, I
That
had
is,
to, I did
yeah.
my own research growing up because going to social studies class in school, they didn't. I mean, I don't really remember them teaching us about that part.
They
Like
didn't.
they
Didn't.
taught us about slavery, the same old, lesson on, African Americans and all that other shit. But I had to do my own research, read books, watch documentaries to find out what the hell it was. So that's when I started to understand the context and why it was done and what they were doing exactly.
So let's dive into a little bit of that, the context and stuff. So make sure everybody's on the same page. People who's watching is on the same page. So what exactly is blackface?
So from the information, the information that I gathered, it's when an actor, and I mean, a lot of people don't understand this. Any actor can do this. It's more common in white actors earlier on in the 50s. This began right after the Civil War to depict us as monsters, to make us not look to make us look inhumane. One of the the key actors who actually rose to prominence because of this. His name was none other than Dan Bryant, and this is circa 1850 when he was out there. Doing this. So this is a very, 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 very to put into perspective for some people. This is only 10 years. This picture that I'm looking at is only 10 years before the 1900s. So just to give y'all a little perspective on it. And
Yeah, just to add on to that, the intent behind it definitely was to, mock the black people, and the conditions that they were. You had, the painted blackface and the over exaggerated red lips and all that other stuff, dancing, doing all that to kind of, lower black people to make them look like buffoons or fools, whatever word you want to use.
Mhm.
The origins definitely was to intentionally make fun of or disrespect black people.
So what I've my research, it didn't start out like, I guess it was something different prior to like the 20th century. I think it was something different. They utilized it in a different way, whether it was like culturally or whatever the case may be. And then once the 20th century hit, that's when it got crazy with it was theater like makeup, thrown on performance faces, which was most of the time non-black, and it would just exaggerate black features, and they would use that, and we see it in crazy films, and even films that they still teach us about today, like The Birth of a Nation, Mammy, Tarzan, the Ape Man, Uncle Tom, even back with the like silent films and stuff like that. And I seen one film, I think it was Uncle Tom. It might have been Uncle Tom, where they had a black actor in the film as a black character, and then they had all the other characters were white men in blackface, playing in, acting in the film. So even when they had, black actors that was, out there acting, creating, making films, they still did the blackface.
I think even black people, so it's one certain point in the early 20th century that they started putting the blackface themselves, because that's how they're gonna get on stage or get on camera. So that's kind of how the minstrel show, began. With white people doing it from Birth of a Nation, and then black people doing it. Like, okay, even though it had protest from African Americans, they just started doing it because it was successful. There was a market for it.
And it's even it wasn't used to that degree in the film where I believe it's Zoe Saldana was portraying Nina Simone, and they darkened her skin to make her look and put a wig on her to I guess get a more accurate look at how Nina Simone looked, and that definitely wasn't met with a lot of good review. But that was my touch on it from saying earlier that anyone could do it, and as Martin just said, it was definitely there were definitely black actors who done it as well. And I've even read so far as there were black actors who were told to paint their face so that it would depict us in a more, as you know, it's as we've said before on the show, a lot of monsters created in Hollywood cinema were based on black characters. They just over exaggerated our features to that point. So it's always been a very vital thing in film.
I think one of the main things with blackface, especially early on in history, that still resonates today is because not only the physical features that they exaggerated but also the personality traits, all the stereotypes, being super lazy, being dumb, being really overly sexualized, once you promote that, especially from even going from D.W. Griffith's Birth of a Nation to now, we still see some of those stereotypes that get put on to black people, not so much in movies, but as far as just, you know, the way certain people talk about African Americans, some of those stereotypes still exist.
All right, so yeah, I thought it was interesting. I wanted to bring that up because you brought up Zoe Saldana playing Nina Simone, and I was gonna say that I feel like that's a little bit different than what we're talking about, because I do think that it's important, like to what Gills was saying, because when they do blackface, it's the stereotypes that come with it, the performance, the act, what they're doing is a part of the actual painting of the face also, and then the intention I think is very important too. I do agree that they probably didn't need, I feel like excuse me, that they didn't need to paint her face darker to play that role. But I think them doing it is a little bit different. But I also
I believe so.
I also think that black people playing blackface is a little bit different now because, like I said, the intentions back then, like what Gills was saying, they were being in a way forced to do that because that's how, like you said, they was able to get on stage and make a career, get paid, and, you know, for their family. But they were also doing those stereotypes that people, that, you know, that group of people believed us to be, right? So that's why it was this cycle of what blackface was. So I did want to touch up on that because I do think the Zoe Saldana playing Nina Simone is a little bit different.
Honestly, if it's funny to you, it don't even got to be true. Like, it's like, I think that's the reason why it kept up for so long. It's like, oh, okay, this stereotype it plays great on the screen. Like, let's run with this. This is hilarious. And I think that's.
I just brought it up because I wanted to speak on like how people felt about it. I personally felt like I don't feel it was needed, but you did it. I don't feel she brought it they did it from a place of malice. Like they did it they wanted to properly depict how she looked. They felt it was necessary, and I don't think everyone else felt it was. But I definitely understand it wasn't from the same place though.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, because I was gonna say that's interesting what you say about coming from a place of malice, and I agree with you. But who's to determine that, you know, if it's coming from a place of malice? Because
that's why I said fans.
Okay,
fans.
Because that's a really risky thing that you have to take into place. If you look at Dan Aykroyd in Trading Places, or if you look at Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder, like, do you like it? Obviously, I agree with, like, it's not coming from a place of malice. It's literally part of the plot. And so I'm like, I kind of, even though some people may, go ahead.
No, finish, because that was what I was going to switch gears into.
Because I think some people don't care what it is, if it's part of the plot or if it, you know, there's going to be people that, you know, that maybe older than us, you know, that lived through that, you know, through a darker time, that, you know, they say, nah, I don't care. There's no reason to do that at all. Me, I look at it from a more liberal standpoint. I'm like, okay, that I can accept because they're kind of playing off of it not being okay to do that kind of thing, especially with, you have people like Eddie Murphy and actual people that I trust behind those films. So I don't know.
So I think I wanted to bring that up because there's three films I wanted to talk about that does it, and it's four films. Actually, it's four films, right?
Tropic Thunder.
So Tropic Thunder, I think, is a little bit different than the other films because they're making fun of the fact that he's an actor doing blackface in the film, right? So it's not that he's doing blackface. So it's not that we're accepting Robert Downey Jr. to do blackface, right? Because he's an actor in the movie that's playing an actor in a movie, right? So, you know what I'm saying? So we understand that. So they have jokes that lead towards that. So I think that's why we could say, all right, the malice is not there for that. But then you have other films where it's kind of they put it in the plot as they're trying to disguise themselves, right? So like there's a film called Soul Man that was made in 1986 where the dude, he wanted to go to college and they was doing like allowing a certain amount of black people into college. So they was allowing a certain number, which they do. Certain number you have to have a certain amount of minorities into the school. So he applied and got in. And he didn't think he would get in, so now he has to be a black man. So he went and painted his face like a black man, and then now I think that's completely different, and I think that's blackface more than what Robert Downey Jr. is doing. And then another film that I wanted to talk about was White Chicks, because people felt that was blackface also, but they just flipped the role. But that's also a film that's they're just doing it, right? Like they're disguising themselves, and that's a part of the plot, and that's the film. It's not like Tropic Thunder, because I personally, like, yes, I'll say he's in blackface, but I don't consider it blackface because of that reason, because he's an actor playing an actor who's doing blackface, and they don't like that he's doing blackface, but it's the film, right? So I just think that's a little bit different. I wanted to get y'all perspective on that aspect of it.
I like how you use the word intent. I think the intention behind it is what's important. If it's for satirical purposes, like in Tropic Thunder, then that's what it is. I mean, you're always going to have people that have that disconnect, but if the intention isn't, if it's not to offend Black people directly, like if it's just to make a comedic film, then I don't really see like the issue with it. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I think that's a thin line, though. I think like the way you explain it is a really, really thin line. Because like you said, you trust Dan Aykroyd and you trust Eddie Murphy, so it hits you a little bit different. But like the older generation, like our parents or their parents, it's not going to hit them the same. So I do think that's a thin line. But I think for Tropic Thunder, it's that line, like you're a little bit further away from that line because they established an idea behind it and what they're doing. So like we're teasing or we're pointing out the bullshit, or we're teasing those people that are doing the blackface. And then it's in a comical film. Then it is Robert Downey Jr. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's a lot of other things that goes into it that I just felt was a little bit different compared to like Soul Man, who's solely, like, the whole film is solely about blackface. And
he's black, yeah.
So
when you mentioned white chicks, I don't know. I'm like, I don't really consider that blackface. To me,
no, I don't either. I don't either.
And I understand the argument of from, I guess, the anybody white or Caucasian
reverse blackface,
reverse blackface.
That's what they argue.
Always trying to reverse something, whatever. Yeah. But I think like there's no history behind it. There's no history behind oppressing white people and then making fun of them and calling them
and making money off of it.
And making money off of it and calling people like this is purely for comedy. Whether you like the Wayans brothers or not, this is purely strictly for comedy. And it's playing on super basic stereotypes as far as the rich white girl. Like how is that defending you? If anything, and this is a super hot take, y'all don't have to agree with it. If anything, Martin Lawrence in Big Mama's House is more blackface than white chicks. It's a hot take.
See, for me, that's a little bit different because I don't believe that today and like in today's time that Black people can do blackface. Like for me, Martin Lawrence is doing the whole thing where they saying you got to make a comedian to be a successful comedian. You got to dress up as a woman, right? Remember that was like a big thing.
It's not blackface. I just want to say it would be more considered to me.
Yeah. I just think that I couldn't connect. For me personally, I couldn't see the connection because of that. But I personally don't think Black people can do blackface. Like I just don't see it that way because I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. The face, the intention, and then the stereotypes and the performance and the acting of what you're doing with it. I think all of that plays into what blackface is. And I feel like and we see that in certain films, like in Soul Man, he acted like he wasn't like himself and just painted himself so he can just play that, get into that school. Like he acted those stereotypes to convince people that he is really a Black person. So I think that's where it draws the line, like, yo, this is blackface. And that film made a lot of money too.
This one, Soul Man?
Yeah, Soul Man. It made like 40 million in the box office.
Yeah. So. But like for me, the way I look at it is like I can't, like there's people who say Black people can't be racist. I'm not looking at it from that standpoint. I'm just saying like I didn't think anything of Zoe Saldana playing Nina Simone, painting her skin darker. Did I feel it was necessary? No, not at all. I feel like it was needed because there's several biopics where they don't really look like the person they're depicting. Like we used Denzel Malcolm X the other day. I believe that Gil's you who brought that up. So like when I don't feel it was necessary, but just like you said, intent. And then another big important factor that Gil's again mentioned earlier, history. Like there's
Right.
nobody in the history, like you can't come back and point it out where y'all were enslaved and we literally made fun of you for feeling some type of way about it after enslaving you for 400 years. Like there's no history on that. So you can't. I mean, you could make an argument. I don't see you getting very far with it. And then as to white chicks, it's like, as you said, it plays off of the very, very basic stereotype of rich white girls. Like they literally don't dig into any other aspect outside of rich white people. That's it. It goes no deeper than that. And then the predominant cast in the movie, it's like 80% white. There's literally the only 4 black people in the movie. 2 of them dress up as white people the entire movie. So it I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that hurt their image at all. So
Yeah, but they
honestly,
but I think something like that is perfect for them because that's what they're into. So
I'm waiting for white chicks too. Fuck
yeah. So I had a question moving forward. Just to pick brains. Why do you think blackface is something that people actually really want to see? Because I feel like in other cultures, and we know that it ties into million of things, but I just wanted to touch on just the film aspect of things. Why do you think that is something that we are still seeing today? Like, what's what is the crave on it? Like, why do people want to do that?
I don't think it's necessarily a crave because I don't feel like it happens at a high enough frequency to say like it is just like but I feel like the reason it is still lingering around, one, with like you said, for one, comedy purposes, like because besides Zoe Saldana, the last few times you've seen it, it's been in comedy movies. It's in Tropic Thunder, we're making fun of actors who did blackface. In White Chicks, we're playing off the stereotype of the rich white girl. And then there's a select few other movies in there. I mean, in Trading Places, it's a comedy. Like we're not seeing this like I'm coming to literally to disrespect an entire race of people. So I really don't really have a specific answer on why we're still seeing it, but I don't believe it's craved. I'll say it like that. I don't think we see it at a high enough, and maybe I'm just not watching the movie, but I don't think we see it at a high enough frequency now to where we're saying like it like we're craving it. We're not seeing it enough as much as we're seeing.
When I did my research, there's films still to this day, short films, overseas films that still in some aspects have blackface. So it might not be like they're doing a film about blackface, but at some point a character in the film has blackface, right? And then it's just thin lines between it. Like, is it really blackface? Is it not? So like, for example, I watched a clip from The Office in 2008 where they had one of the characters dress up as a clown, as one of those clowns, had the big red lips, painted all black. And that's a show that people love. Like, everybody talks about how much they love The Office, and they did blackface in that. I saw another clip of Mary Poppins where it was the older Mary Poppins where she put the black smoke on her face to act like she came through the chimney or whatever, and people are considering that blackface. Like, why do they have to do that? Why is that needed? And stuff like that. So that's why I was saying there's a real thin line between it, but we do constantly still see it today in certain aspects of in film. Like there's another film, I think it was called Old Grandpa.
Old Grandpa.
I've never seen that.
It was with
Bob and David in 2015. He painted himself black to go through customs or something like that, to look like somebody else. Like, I think that's what people are. That's where it kind of like diluted to now, right? So back in the early days, it was like real heavy black makeup, red lips, and then now it's starting to dilute into something different, right? Until the Tropic Thunder. Because even if you look at Tropic Thunder, he looks like a black man, right? Like their intention was to make him look like a black man. They didn't over exaggerate it like what it used to be, but it's still blackface in a way, right? So that's what I meant. Like, and then also we see TikTokers doing it. We Vine people, people that do those little videos, we see them do it so often to get a laugh, to get a joke, right? So that's why that's what I meant by why are people so stuck on it? Like, why does it feel like it's a craze?
Are they
just to
really
go
like
off of,
trying to get into character? Maybe
Yeah, that's
I
what
don't know.
that's what I'm saying. Like, what do y'all think that reason is? Because that video that I sent to Williams, that was a TikTok or Instagram or whoever that put all of that shit on. Like, I don't know why she did it. And you got to spend a lot of money to put all that fucking makeup on. So, like, what is the crave? Like, what is sitting you down to do that? When these people, when they decided they want to be these certain characters to go to parties and shit like that, why do you want to be that? Like, why do you want to paint your face black like that? Like, what is the crave? Like, what is it that's there? You know what I'm saying? Because obviously we don't know what it is because that's our skin. Every day we wake up and we look like that. Like, our lips look like this, our eyes are like this. Like, that's, so we don't know what it is. So that's why I'm thinking, like, what do y'all think that is? What is that crave?
I think it's like what I was saying before is like it's a lot of it is real life bleeding into the movies. People want access to Black culture in some way, shape, or form because it does permeate through different aspects of life. And so some people do it just because they're looking at it as making fun of it. Some people actually want to, live life in those shoes. They like without having to go through all the, all the drawbacks that come with it. Because when it comes to come ride for us, they don't want to have nothing a part of that. I've seen white girls on Instagram like completely change their skin complexion just to, play like you're from Sweden. Like, what are you doing? Like, but they're sitting there and they like, and people are like, oh, is she bad, whatever, and then they find out like she's an actual like Black person. Like the whole plot for Dear White People was kind of like the movie. It was based on that the people's doing it in the fraternity parties and the office parties and just
right.
showing up to places dressed in Black garb or their stereotype of what it is. So I think they have their different reasons. I can't speak for white people why they like to do that, but I think a lot of it is they want access to Black culture in some way, shape, or form, whether it's for comedic purposes or for malice reasons.
Right. And I just want to make sure that because it all connects, and I feel like it all connects, whether it's like, some Instagram comedian or, some kid, some dude that works in an office and goes into his office party like that. And I just want to make sure that we all understand that it connects because they saw it on a film, like they saw it on TV, right? So that's where it started. Like they saw it they saw it there. Like somebody showed it to them or whoever they got it from saw it there first, right? Because these people didn't walk around their everyday lives wearing this, in the sense that we're talking about it. They saw it on television in a movie or something like that. So that's why I wanted to make sure that we understand that we could dive into that aspect of things because it does start with film. Like it starts here and then people see it and they want to get into it.
Even Prime Minister Trudeau, he like for Canada, like he's got in blackface. Okay, like that's crazy to me.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I mean, when you put it like that, like now I understand what you're saying. I mean, just like we used the setup earlier that a lot of older Black people, they don't want blackface at all. Like I don't give a damn what reason it's for because this is what I went through. Like I dealt with this. Like a lot of our grandparents, some of our parents, for those people with the older parents, like had to deal with this growing up. Like my dad was born in the 60s, definitely still popping off in the 60s. So if you flip that over, what were their grandparents and parents and great grandparents doing? They were on the opposing side. I mean, not all of them, certainly. I mean, like you'll say, I can't speak for all white people, but they were on the opposing side more often than not. So they were probably raised that like this is funny or there's nothing wrong with it. They're just being too sensitive. Like so, I mean, you got to look at it from that aspect too.
So for me, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say really quickly. I don't think we should just going off of what you said, Banks. I don't think the people from the previous generations or the baby boomer generation should kind of not want us to address these. I think it's healthy for us to address it, maybe not in a comedic fashion, But I think a lot of times the reason why racism still exists, or a racist culture still exists, or things like this, is because we push it, we sweep it under the rug and don't want to talk about it, and we end up with people dressing them in blackface. But no, my fault. I didn't mean to cut you off, X.
Yeah, I think for me, I do agree with I agree with what you just said. I think I think us as a community, we're just too forgiving. But that's like a whole nother conversation. But for me, I think why it still exists and why people want to do it is because they know we don't like it. And everybody wants to be that. Yeah. And I think the main thing too is that they think it's okay because they want us to believe that it's coming from a comedic standpoint, right? Like they think it's okay to joke about these things or to talk about these things because it's a joke, or I'm just trying to be funny, or we're just it's just a light joke, or whatever the case may be. And I think and I think because we're so forgiven as a whole, and I'm not saying like I'm not forgiven, but as a whole, I think we're more forgiven. And I think that's why it's acceptable that in your favorite show, like Family Guy or something, they'll do it and you'll laugh about it and be okay, and then still watch the next episode and next episode and next episode. Right. So I think, which is another reason why I enjoy the cancer culture that they're having now, because it gets people to walk on eggshells in a way, right? Like, because in my opinion, walking on eggshells mean you're going to think before you say that shit, because now you got somebody that, smack you in your mouth or going to cancel you out and you're going to lose your job, or you're not going to be able to do this, you're not going to be able to do that, right? So I think them walking on eggshells at this point where we at is a positive thing. And I think filmmakers and actors or creators in general need to be aware of that, because I don't need you to make some art on blackface, right? Like there's nothing that you could do that can add to that to make me see it in a different light, make me understand it better, or anything else. Like, I think we should just put that in the history books and leave that alone and create something new and do something different, So, and I think once we in the film community kind of cut that out, erase that out of our the world, the community, then I think it will follow suit. So we won't see these different people on Instagram, on TikTok, putting up on all this black makeup trying to to make a joke.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what Gills was saying before. They just trying to be down, trying to have access to the culture. I don't know, maybe they want to be black so damn bad. I don't know what the reason is, but I'll be honest. If I see a film come out today with blackface, I probably won't be interested. I don't see any interest in it. Like I literally don't see any comedy.
Tropic Thunder 2.
Oh fuck!
If it ever happens,
I don't think they would do that in this culture.
No, they won't. No, it's definitely not happening. I'm just saying, if there was a chance,
they hit it at the right time. They definitely hit it at the
perfect
right time.
Perfect timing.
Now, because I seen this. He did it before. Ben Stiller did it before in Zoolander, where he painted himself all black and was playing around and stuff. So he's done it before.
And he looked more on the clownish side in Zoolander. Like his shit was like he could probably get canceled for that today if anybody just went.
Yeah, he couldn't do that again. Yeah.
And
but those are people that didn't watch the movie, so
right. And he knew. I mean, you have to know a movie like Zoolander, and it's not to be right, but we don't typically watch those type of movies. I'm not watching a movie about a comedic male model. I mean, I've seen it. I'm a movie head. Your everyday hood cat, he ain't watch no damn Zoolander. He damn sure didn't come back for Zoolander 2. But to touch back on that thing briefly, real quick before we move on cancel culture, also it makes a lot of people walk back the shit that they said it's making people not pick and choose, because I seen a post today. It was like, y'all canceling this skunk, but you got this character on Family Guy, Quagmire. He been doing the most since the beginning of time, and nobody's had nothing.
He's not even the worst dude on Family Guy.
You got Mr. Herbert. The post was just about Quagmire though. But then that's when I jumped over. I was like, shit, not even Quagmire, Mr. Herbert. Like, bro, you've been trying to actively rape this 14-year-old boy
for a long time.
And I'm like, nobody said anything. But I'm like, even in the black community, they pick and choose like, oh shit, this is something I like. I can cancel this shit. But over here, like I don't really fuck with that. We can cancel that. Like it's making this cancel culture shit is making people pick up their shit, and you gotta be either here with it or you here with it. It's one of the two. You can't be both. So that's something I really appreciate.
That's what I like. I hate that on the fence shit. Like I hate that. Like pick a side and let's run with it. That's what I like, and that's what I think filmmakers need to do.
I think Family Guy, not to cape for them or anything, but I think they do some of the selective stuff that they do, and I haven't seen Family Guy in a while, but some of the stuff that they did earlier was just to address certain things that happen in society. Yeah, same thing with South Park. They a strong, extremely satirical take on what happens in society and what's wrong with society a lot of times.
I think some shows and some cartoons and stuff like that is understandable when it comes to how they approach it and how they do it. And I think that at a point Family Guy was like that, like they was doing that. But I think as time gone, like it becomes a thing. Like
it's like you're overdoing it.
Yeah, like it's a thing now. Like that's what we do on this show. But to Family Guy, they're like that with everything. So it's not like subjective. Like they don't just choose what to do and what not to do. It's everything is on the table for them. At least when I used to watch it. They was offending everybody from left to right. There was nobody that was not being offended in the show, and they made a lot of money. They made a living off doing that.
I mean, he basically made it. He made it a thing to make fun of everyone for being so sensitive. Mm-hmm. Like that's really that. If you look at the show in its grand scheme, that's really all he did. Like because, like you said, he goes down the line from abortion to racism to same-sex marriage to whatever. Like he hit every. I mean, he makes fun. I think he's Irish. He makes fun of his own people like over and over again. So it's like for him to get canceled, like it wouldn't be like it's targeting. No, he hits everything. But moving forward, so what do y'all feel? Do y'all feel like blackface will ever come to a complete stop? Where we're talking, like you said, you want to like touched on. He said like eventually he wants to get to a point where we bury that and we move on to something new. Do you feel like in the foreseen future, like maybe the next 10 to 20 years, that's something we'll be able to put a nail in, or do you feel like it'll still be going?
I think so. I think it will be because you got more people, more minorities and black people in those rooms now. Right, so you got more.
So you think it'll be done?
Black, yeah, you got in less than 20 years because you got more black directors, more black writers, more black producers, more black people just in that environment, and then cancel culture of them doing certain stuff and people not liking it and showcasing their frustration on it. I just think people are not gonna. It's not gonna be worth whatever you're gonna write or whatever you're gonna film. It's just not gonna be worth the backlash once you put it out. So I think it's gonna be sooner than that.
I think if white people call this shit out, more and more of us start calling it out, they'll stop doing it. But if we don't say shit, they're gonna think it's okay. They're gonna keep dropping shit, keep doing blackface like it's cool. You got a couple of handfuls of black people that like to say, oh, I didn't find that offensive. I thought it was funny as hell. Like, for example, I was looking at some of the reviews and some of the comments and, Tropic Thunder. There was a couple people in the comments saying, oh, I'm black and I thought this was hilarious, whatever. But, I mean, it depends on how you take it. It depends on how you take it. It seems
like that's always the excuse, though. Like that's and they feel like they need to go out their way to say
I'm black and I approve this message. Like,
and that's when you get I have a black friend and I do this around him all the time. Like that's when they play that card and that's when that shit comes into play because you're putting the weight of an entire race on your one black friend. Right. Like you putting the weight of everything on that one black friend being okay with it, or maybe is it he was raised more around white people, who knows? And he's never been told that he's never seen anything wrong with it because the people around him don't see anything wrong with it.
It's never looked at that way. It's like when a white person will like say the N-word and you get that one black dude. Oh, I think it's okay. Like,
facts.
No.
Facts.
I hate that shit.
I think we need to just start smacking people in the face.
I don't understand. Like
you've been
my
for
thing
that
is
though.
with
You've been asking
always.
for
My thing is I just don't understand why. Like it's like one of those things, and you can literally put blackface in that same category with saying the N word. It's like, why do you need to do it? Like what is the fascination? And I don't for the N word. I really don't have an answer because it's like, bro, you literally get no brownie points. You get no extra kick. Bitches don't come out. You don't get a free gun. Like nothing. Like
Yeah,
you
it's
don't get
like
nothing from this. What is the purpose?
it's like with blackface, there's like a differentiation between blackface with the intent of offending black people, aka minstrel shows, and then you have blackface with the intent to not offend anyone and do it for satirical purposes. The N word is
none of that really exists. None of that really exists though, because even in those times where they was doing blackface like that, the intent to do it was to make people laugh. It just wasn't us that they was trying to make laugh. You know what I'm saying? So
it wasn't for the
even
the
that
it's
just
everybody. It
pointless.
was at the expense of somebody else.
Even that is just pointless. So, but like I in some instances I do, and this was another question I wanted to ask. In some instances I do find it to be funny, right? Like I can see the humor in it. And I never come out and be like, yo, that was funny, because I usually see it as this. Like I see it as that. Like it was funny, but that's still not what we should be doing. Right. So how do y'all feel about it in that sense? Like Tropical Thunder, I think they shouldn't have been doing it, even though it was still funny. Right. So Trading Places, it was funny, but you probably shouldn't be doing it. So what are y'all thoughts on that aspect of it?
I mean, they address, like, if you look at I forgot the dude's name, Brandon T. Jackson. Brandon T. Jackson's character was sitting there. He was confronting the issue. He was like, bro, what you're doing is not okay. You know what I mean? But yeah, you know what I mean? But like, since we're on a movie set, I'm gonna just roll with it. But best believe, he confronted the issue.
Right.
It kind of opens up a conversation, like a backdoor conversation about like, okay, what is the history behind this kind of thing? Yes, I agree with you. It should not have been done. But if there was going to act like when you look at the history behind, how Robert Downey Jr. took on that role and, why he took on that role, one, his relationship with Ben Stiller, him trusting him, with, not getting this wrong. And then him just being able to, make fun of something that he doesn't believe in general. He doesn't believe that, blackface should be a thing in general. And so he's kind of putting it on the nose on that kind of thing. Like there's a lot of nuance there whereas I kind of look at it, from, that standpoint, like, okay, I get what you're doing there, but I don't, but yeah, I have to agree with you. Even if it's funny, it's probably best left alone if you're not really ready to take that heat, because even if you're doing it for the correct reasons, it could backfire tremendously.
Right. So I like what you said, only because I agree with it, right? And I think it's important to say, because us sitting in this, we watch films a little bit different than the average moviegoer, right? So like, and I noticed that from when I wasn't in film school, how I watched the film to how I watch a film now, it's like a complete 360 turn, right? And even then, I thought I watched films a little bit different than the average moviegoer, right? So I think the average moviegoer don't look at it like how you just explained it, right? Like I think the average moviegoer doesn't dive into and see what it took for Robert Downey to do that. Now we do. Like I know I did. Like I know I researched like why did he decide to do that role? Like why was that okay for him to do that role, right? Like why did he think that would be cool? Because you had to that had to be in the script, right? Like they had to have that conversation prior to him saying like, yes, I'm going to go ahead and do this role, right? But I think the average moviegoer don't think about that. I think the average moviegoer may think like, oh, wow, Robert Downey Jr. is cool with this. All right, I see where he's coming from now,
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously they didn't take it that way because he got Iron Man and everybody loved Iron Man, right? So, and I think that was like around the same time, wasn't it?
Like the very next year.
Yeah, they did Iron Man, right?
Man.
So,
yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, it helped. It obviously helped his career. Like, it definitely helped his career.
It didn't hurt.
So I just wanted to point that out because I think that's interesting, because I don't think the average moviegoer really dives into it like that.
going into watching the movie, I didn't go see the movie. My cousin actually ended up ordering. We had DirecTV. He ended up ordering it off the whatever the little services was on there. Looking at the previews, I never even paid attention that was Robert Downey Jr. Like I always just and even they had the little I'm the dude that's playing another dude thing, and I still never paid attention to like being him until in the movie they're playing actors. They're playing actors, so it's like I'm seeing the beginning of the movie. I'm like, okay, where's the black dude? And then when he comes out of it, I was like, nah, this shit ain't cool. And I'm looking at my cousins, they looking at me, and we all like, all right, let's see where it's going with it. So for the longest, I looked at it like, this is fucked up. Like that ain't like that's not. And I'm like 17, 18. So looking at that, I'm looking at it, or 16, something like that. But I'm looking at it from that perspective. But then getting the doing the movies, the interviews and all that, and I'm starting to figure out why he did that, and then going through the whole movie and watching the movie and seeing how he portrayed it, I'm like, oh, they making fun of this shit. Like so this ain't what's up. Like this ain't the type of time you want. And just taking it from that perspective, but you still climb back to like, okay, would this still have been a good movie if you didn't do this? Or at least I would have laughed. I probably would have. Like I only watched it one time. I watched it that one time, but I'm like, would this still have been an eye movie? Like I wasn't gonna watch it again anyway. That wasn't necessary. No. So then you go back and you go back and you look at all the other times it was done. It's like, was that absolutely necessary? No. Even in Trading Places, it's like, okay, yeah, you're playing on this, but did you absolutely need to paint this man to look like a black? No. So it I think we're all in agreement. It just falls into that area where it's like, all right, no, I didn't take offense to it, but you should have just left it alone.
I think that just goes to show like that, like what X was saying before, people want to see that. People crave that. They want to see that. I don't want to see it because I don't care for it. Like I don't see a point. I think it's that shit is done with. It's left. Just leave it in the past. Move on to something else. Yeah, I don't have any like that. That's just my final thought. Like just don't do them no more. Like that's literally all I gotta say.
And again, they did it at the right time. It was like I don't know who had the foresight to see this is exactly when we need to do this movie, because
they just got lucky.
Also,
because it was like, you gotta think 4 or 5 years later, Trayvon Martin happens. And like, I mean, we already had social injustice going on before that, but he was like the one that like kicked it up a notch. And then you start seeing like all the news and I mean, that's around time social media was getting hot and getting heavy. So he did it at the perfect time. And I feel like probably nobody else could have done it, because it came out before Iron Man or after?
I think before. It's 2008 and Iron Man is 2009.
Yeah, it came out before Iron Man. But I think it came out the same year, if I'm not mistaken, or like
I was about to
it
say
was made the same year. I think Iron Man is 2008, but Tropic Thunder is definitely first. It definitely came out first. But I think one we just gotta establish that Ben Stiller, that's what he do. Like he reaches a lot. Like that's what he's known for doing. Like reaching on certain stuff. Sometimes it hit, sometimes it don't. Right? That was just one that hit. But like another question I wanted to ask that I just thought of: when that does happen, when we do get the Tropic Thunders, the Soul Man, Trading Places, those type of
Iron
films.
Man was first.
It was.
It was first.
Maybe that's why
it was first. That's why I was saying, I was like, because he wasn't acting before that, and you remember that's before he was like on drugs real bad. He was in and out of jail. So I was like, I don't know how he swung. It came out on May 2nd. Iron Man came out on May 2nd of 2008, and Tropic Thunder came out on August 13th. So it was they struck while the iron was hot. Yeah.
But and that might have been strategic. But anyways, so I wanted to.
But yeah, it's no way to see that, because if the movies come out that same year, they were in production, around the same time. So
yeah, but you could decide. They could decide when to drop a film and when not to drop a film, right? And it doesn't also mean just because it came out in 2008 doesn't necessarily mean it was filmed in 2008 either.
Right.
But in most cases it usually works that way. But they could definitely decide like, this movie is coming out and it's projected to this, that, and the third. Let's wait, or whatever the case may be. But I don't know if they did that. I don't know if they did. I think, like I said, I think they just got lucky. Like the cards just hit that way and he got lucky. Yeah. And then Iron Man blew up, and then they were just riding off Iron Man. They just said it was great because it's Robert Downey Jr. He's the Iron Man that, So that's what I think happened. But it plays into my next question that I thought of as you were saying it. So like those films that I just mentioned, do y'all think performance matters? Like, do y'all think who's doing it and the performance matters if how you or the community accept that it is a form of blackface? Like we accepted Robert Downey Jr.'s character in blackface. Mm-hmm. Is it because he performed it well? Is it because
I think it was because it was him.
Who he is? Like why do y'all think that's okay? Like it was considered okay?
I think it falls back into what I was saying earlier. Like you got people who play the fence. Like they like, oh, but I like this. I feel like if that was any actor that isn't predominantly like I don't know, Jude Law, Ryan Felipe, whoever, random person that doesn't really matter, I feel like that would have went over way worse because it's like what type of time are you on? And I feel like Robert Downey Jr., that's why I knew Iron Man had to happen first, because of Robert Downey Jr.'s past. It's like, this your first film back? Like back? Nah. And I feel like they played a lot on the, oh man, but this, like, bro, this Iron Man, like, come on, bro. Like, you seen what he just did in Iron Man. We're not about to fire him. Like, so it's like, I feel like it played, maybe not all, but I feel like it definitely played a part in it with who it was and when it happened. Because I feel like if Iron Man doesn't come out earlier that year and they do the same thing, I don't feel like that goes over well.
Agreed. I think it did ride a little bit off of the piggyback off of the success of Iron Man, but I think people, they rock with Robert Downey Jr. before that. Like they were rooting for him to come back. Like he because he's such a talented actor.
Yeah, he was talented before.
He was definitely talented.
Everybody knew like this dude. Like if he could just get his head together,
he'd be straight.
He could be somebody. And so, now that movie, especially with not only that coupled with the actual performance of the role, because if you look at it just from an objective standpoint of actually nailing the role, then yes, he was actually the guy playing another guy. He was an actor playing an actor, who had no sense of what he was doing was wrong at that standpoint. Like he nailed that part of that character, whether it was wrong or right to do it. So but
he was the best part of the movie, even though the movie wasn't that great.
That's why I said I think
he was still the best part of the movie.
The movie would have been trash if he wasn't in it doing blackface. The movie would be trash. Like if they didn't have that idea behind it, the movie's not that good. But that's Ben Stiller movie. So
yeah, I definitely think the performance matters. I just saw this on IndieWire, and this is, I don't know how credible this source is, and this is quoted directly from Robert Downey Jr. And he says, "This is a terrible idea. Wait a minute." Then I thought, well, hold on, dude, get real. Let's get real here. Where's your heart? My heart is I get to be black for a summer in my mind. So there's something in it for me. The other thing is I get to hold up to nature, the insane self-involved hypocrisy of artists and what they think they're allowed to do on occasion. Just my opinion. So there you go. That
sounded like some shit he would say. Like it sounded like it was worded like him, but I don't know.
Yeah, so yeah, if him doing it definitely made that film take off.
But okay, for instance, who else was in the movie?
Brandon T. Jackson, Jack Black, Ben Stiller.
Put Jack Black.
Jack Black could do that.
Put Jack Black in the blackface. It works. Yeah, put Ben Stiller in it. Works. Owen Wilson. Those are I said that to say those are the type of people who could do some stuff like that, and everybody would be like, Vince Vaughn. No, because he's in that group of people. Vince Vaughn, like
Yeah.
people would let
I would
that
have burned
shit
the theater
slide.
down if I seen Owen
Second
Wilson in
tier.
blackface.
People with that nose.
I would have burned the theater down. We wouldn't even be doing this right now.
People
I
would
would've
have
been in
tried to
jail
let
for
that
years.
shit slide, but you throw any like an actor that people don't fuck with, like it's like he's an extra, like he's never really the main focus, and he do that shit, they would have fucking rioted. They would have.
Word.
IMAX would have been on fire.
We probably wouldn't even got the. I wonder how it even got the okay. Like,
I mean, you gotta think like-minded people. Like they you see those group, like just like Adam Sandler works with the same people every time he does a movie. If you look at Ben Stiller's cast, they pretty much the same people.
that's a good question. Like, how would y'all have felt if Adam Sandler did blackface? What would y'all think? Because Adam Sandler is loved in the black community. I think
Word.
everybody loves Adam Sandler.
I feel like it would have flew. It would have
Yeah,
flew.
so
I
what
feel
do
like
y'all
I would have had the same reason.
I don't think that's
it's
his
not
brand of comedy.
necessary.
Yeah, I don't
but
think
it
he'll
would-
ever do it.
No, he wouldn't.
No,
I don't think.
no.
Well, I wouldn't say he wouldn't. I don't know the man,
He wouldn't.
but
do it.
his brand of comedy, it's not him.
If
But
he
did
would have
it,
done it, if he
it
would
would've
have done it,
flew.
it would have happened already. Like, he would have done it already. Like, he's not gonna decide out of nowhere in 2021 and now in this climate that he's gonna decide to do that, right? So I think if he was to do it, he would have done it already. But I was just asking, like, if he did do it, like in the early 2000s or whatever, he decided to have a character because he does different characters. If he had a character that was in black, because we seen like White Chicks is not the only case that we saw that, right? Like, because we seen
Eddie
Martin do
Murphy
it.
and Coming to America.
Martin did it in the Martin show. He played the dude that worked in
Bob.
he played Bob.
Bobby.
So, like, we see
Bobby
black
with
people
this shit.
dress up in in a white face
Chappelle.
or whatever it is. Dave
Dave
Chappelle.
Chappelle, yeah.
Like,
he
we've
played-
seen it in our
This motherfucker
community.
played a black racist, like
But it's always
a
been
black white supremacist.
it's always
everywhere.
been a joke. But like, it's always been, we're doing this for fun. Like, we're not
Mhm.
making a movie like Soul Man and we want to be a white person. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
Do you guys think only certain white people could pull it off?
Yes.
Or
I ain't gonna
like
say pull it off.
for example, what if fucking Tom Cruise was in blackface? How would
He
y'all
did.
even
Yeah,
no way.
I'd pull
He'll
up
get
to LA
canceled.
myself.
yeah,
like?
Gills would
Yeah,
be there
yeah.
with the M4 support and
Yeah,
I'm not even gonna
out
play
there
Gills
with
like that.
the
I don't think
Tom
Gills would be
Cruise
with that. I
lenses
don't
that-
think Gills would be with that.
Yes, he
I
would.
don't- I ain't gonna play my- I ain't gonna play my bad like
gonna
that.
support
I ain't
me.
gonna play-
Okay.
I said it earlier. I was like, I don't
Wait,
think Gills would have did that.
Whenever
When you say
X
you
pull a
bad
lie
to
on
pieces-
Gills, like y'all just go with it. Y'all just
What did I
jokes.
have to do with that? Like,
Yeah.
X was quiet. He was
Yeah,
chilling.
what did
He
I
was
have to do
quiet.
with that?
You just said I'd pull out an
I brought it
M4
up.
and pull out an M4 and cape with
protect
Tom
him.
Cruise. Yes, that you have something to do with it.
But he-
stop,
it's
stop
crazy.
hiding behind it.
hold on. How am I hiding? It's crazy how he makes the joke. Terrell makes
You made the joke.
You
You
added
made
to
the
the joke.
joke. I
Terrell
didn't make the joke. You made the
Terrell
joke.
made the joke. Terrell made the joke.
You made the
but-
joke.
Terrell made the joke.
You know what's
The
crazy
M4,
though?
He
the
could've said
You know
any
what's
white
crazy?
person.
I wasn't even addressing Gills, in my mind when I said Tom Cruise. I just thought of him,
But
A
you
random
made the
white-
joke because you know
I
he
am not
loved
the
Tom Cruise.
spokesperson for Tom Cruise. All right, we're not. I'm not. I am
All
not.
right, we gonna get off the
I'm-
subject.
Yes.
All right.
To answer your question, Terrell, yes. I ain't gonna say only certain white people can pull it off. I feel like certain white people could do what Robert Downey Jr. did and go in there and play the role. Only certain white actors could get away with it
Right.
and get away with it
Nobody
scot
can.
free.
I don't think nobody
because-
at this point.
Nobody at this point. Nobody at this point. Like right now, cancel culture is at an all-time high. Like he'll be done before the movie even hits the theaters.
Yeah,
you're not even gonna
getting-
get to go to premiere because you're gonna be locked in your house. You're gonna have a mob.
Yeah, getting
So,
away
Gills,
with
if
it
you
is
saw-
one thing.
If you saw Tom Hanks in blackface, would you see the movie? Tom Hanks.
Why
Everybody
are you
loves Tom
asking
Hanks.
me that?
I don't like
Everybody
Tom
loves
Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
I
No.
don't like Tom Hanks.
Everybody loves Tom Hanks, but no, he can't.
I do
even get
not
away with
like
that. He
Tom
can't
Hanks.
even with
I'm going against the grain.
What about Brad Pitt? Brad Pitt say, "Fuck it, I'm gonna do blackface."
that. Are you just gonna start naming white actors that
He would've
no.
been-
Everybody
If-
loves
if-
Brad
if-
Pitt, man. Everybody
do love Brad Pitt.
I feel like everybody loves Brad Pitt. I wouldn't mind seeing a Brad Pitt movie right now.
Bro, for real. I'll watch Troy right now. Happy.
And what about Leo? What about What
Leonardo?
about Johnny
Nah.
Depp? What about Johnny Depp? I think Johnny Depp could get away
Johnny
with it
Depp
right
would
now.
do it.
I think he's the
Leo, matter
only
of
one
fact,
that could get away with it
I think
right this moment.
Johnny would do it. and get away, especially when he going through the shit he going through. Oh, he would let they would
be
let
understanding.
It
Like, oh, it's Johnny. We love Johnny.
Johnny, it's
all
okay.
Right. What do you think, Gills?
He recovering
Gills,
from a painful situation right now.
Yo, can we move on to this nigga's trolling right now?
Answer the question.
This nigga's trolling right now.
Answer the question.
Can we move on, son? No, the answer is no. Is that good enough for you, son?
Oh, which one? Which person? You gotta go down the line.
Okay, the whole list. The whole list.
You don't think Johnny Depp can do that shit?
No,
I
think they'll let him slide.
Nah, man.
I think they would let Johnny Depp slide.
He the only one though.
I think he's the only white actor right now that
they would let it slide.
Niggas would be like, oh, that's Johnny. It's all right.
I mean,
going through
because
some shit.
I was gonna say Leo, but they was low key on Leo head how easy he was saying nigga, because Leo to saying nigga before. I don't care what nobody said. He was letting that shit fly.
They say he did struggle on set with that whole thing.
Yeah. Oh well, he is a great actor. So maybe he just pulled it together. But on screen, from what I seen, he was.
That's
saying
a good question. Let's talk about that really quick. Because we see a lot of movies, and I think we have like if Spike Lee directed a movie and they say nigga a lot, I think we're okay. Like we're okay with it and we don't notice it. But when Quentin Tarantino or another white director do a movie and they say nigga a lot, we like get at it. Like, why are they saying nigga so much? Like, is it needed? Like, do they need to say that? Like Django.
It's a period piece.
Honestly, Django, they did say nigga a lot. That and instances where yes, it's a period piece, and in that time they probably did do that, but they didn't need to do it for this film right now, right? Like we've seen slave movies that didn't say the N-word as much as Quentin Tarantino had them say the N-word. So like, what are y'all thoughts on that?
Fly.
Everybody said that it was said in
every fucking character, bro. Honestly, I didn't really jump up out my seat like, oh, what the fuck, Quentin Tarantino? But I was noticing how freely they were saying it and the frequency in which they were saying. But I was like, bro, when you looking at that time period and you got to think about who they were talking to. Like Dr. King Schultz wasn't saying nigga to Django. He wasn't saying nigga to everybody else. He was only playing that role when he was talking to slave owners who say this shit like it's a regular word. So I was like, I get it. Because this is what is depicted throughout history. Like you're a slave owner. I know for a fact you probably use nigga every other sentence.
Right. And I asked this question. No, actually, I'm gonna let y'all answer. Go ahead, answer. Go ahead, Gil. What you think?
I think I would have more of a problem if you're not being authentic. If you're gonna do a period piece like in slavery time about slavery, and you're editing yourself without saying the N-word, you're doing yourself a disjustice. Now you're just looking at history through rose-tinted goggles. Yes, you're gonna display how ugly, the word was used, during that time period. You're gonna display, the roots, the origin of that word. And Quentin Tarantino has never been one to back down from
anything,
showing things exactly how gory, how violent, how ugly that they can be. So
I mean,
Pulp
Fiction alone.
Pulp Fiction, and then you have the people that he works with. Like he works with trusted names, Academy Award winners, Black people, Jamie Foxx, Samuel L. Jackson.
He's not just getting some random.
He's not he's working with people that actually, that stand for something. They're not just Black actors. They're Black people that we trust. Outside from cinema. So yes, I didn't have any problem with it as far as.
About you, Terrell?
Yeah, as long as it's authentic and it's not like over exaggerated, like they saying nigga 3 times in every sentence. Like I think as long as the shit sounds real and it's believable, that's what it's all about with filmmaking. If it's believable and you're captured into whatever you're watching, then it's cool. It starts to get a little frustrating once you hear it too much and it's like, okay, you're trying a little too hard, saying that word. So
like one night in Miami when he said that, it kind of took me off guard because you thinking,
he's like niggas in the house. You talking about that?
Yeah. When he says that, you like, wait, what? I thought y'all was what?
Cool. Yes.
I felt like
it was
that.
A good touch.
It only happened one time in the movie.
Yeah, but I felt that was more authentic than Django, though. Like the feel of it and watching it, I felt like him saying
two different periods.
I definitely agree. But I'm just talking about like how it was presented, the presentation of the word and how the word was used. I felt it was more authentic now that you bring it up, I feel like that was more authentic than and yes, it's definitely two different periods. I'm just based off how it was presented. I felt that was a little bit more authentic. And I felt like if Quentin Tarantino would have used it less, because even though it's a period piece, there's still things that you're trying to do now to make sure that it's successful, right? So yes, it's a period piece, and yes, and I also think by them saying the N-word less wouldn't have changed the authenticity, how authentic it is, right? I don't think, because I just feel like we live in a world where we are sensitive to these certain things, and you should be, even though it's a period piece, you should still take that into account when you create your film, right? But I asked that question to ask this. So will it be okay if filmmakers decided to do a film that's a blackface, like what Spike Lee did? So if you get a white filmmaker and decide to do one of these, a Soul Man movie, or
now
like, or Uncle Tom Cabin film, now remake that film with these blackface characters in it, but as long as they're authentic, would it be okay now?
Why? Why would you want to make?
What would be the authentication?
Why would you want to make that right now?
And that's why I asked this question, because it's kind of both ways. Because why did we need more slave films? Why did we need Django? But we enjoyed it, we watched it, we loved it. But why did we need it? And you could say the same thing for if they wanted to remake Uncle Tom Cabin, to showcase that history. Like if they wanted to remake Birth of the Nation and showcase that history, and to do that, you would have to have the blackface in it, because that's a part of that history. That's a part of what was going on in that time, right? So if I'm making a film, right, like if I'm making a film, say I'm making a film about the director who did Birth of a Nation, right? I'm gonna have to say the N-word. I'm gonna have to be racist. I'm gonna have to have blackface, because that's what he did, which is why I think we never really see a biopic of him, because it probably would have been just too creative, too insanely offensive, that it wouldn't happen. But you might have a filmmaker that's daring to do that. And if he does it, and to y'all take where you want it to be authentic, for it to be authentic, they would have to have that thing. So we do say they do a biopic on that director, and they want to put in a scene
D.W. Griffith.
Why would you do a biopic on him?
I get what you're. We're saying that now because we know how ridiculously racist he was. But what I'm saying is, filmmaking is about doing stuff like that. It's about, daring.
No, I'm saying why would you do a biopic on him? Because it's like, why would you want to highlight that person though?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, okay, for example, if I wanted
J. Edgar Hoover, so they've done it for
here's a perfect example. Me, I'm in film school, right? And I want to do my thesis, and I want to highlight how they keep showing us the bullshit of the Birth of a Nation in our film. Every film school that I went to so far have made me watch that film and write something or talk about this film, right? Say I want to do a film about that. For me to do a film about that, I would have to show blackface. I would have to show that, like, this is the dude and this is what he was. So I was just using, if you do a biopic as an example, because if you do a biopic of him and say you want to do a scene of how he was or what he was doing when he was directing the Birth of a Nation, you have to see blackface on his film set. And I'm just saying, in those instances, what's the difference between that? Like, in those instances, would it be okay to do blackface, or will it not still be okay?
I have a two-sided answer to that. One, this is my interpretation of Django. I'm not saying this is what Quentin Tarantino did, but you showed a black man in that time win, which is something you don't see. Like, that's for me, that's what I got from that. Like, because I did the, like, did we really like need that? But it's like, okay, you showed a black man in that time winning and overcoming slave masters, and you show it in a dope ass way. Flipping over to your other question, to your question, it's like, if it was for educational purposes, or you're documenting something, I could get that. But like doing the what's the name of the movie? The college movie where he paint
Soul Man.
Doing that, no. I don't see that. I mean, I don't see that going over, period. Like, you're just gonna purposely just to go to like your whole purpose in the film, you're not showing black people win, you're not showing black people overcome anything, you're showing a white dude taking advantage of our skin to go to, which is one of the main problems in America. Like, we're getting tired of y'all using our shit to get ahead, and then y'all don't want to give us our fucking credit. So yeah, Soul Men will probably never be remade.
What about you, Toro? It has been remade. They made White Chicks, so it's pretty much the same premise in a way. Same idea. So they have done it. What about you, Toro? What you think?
Yeah, again, it goes back to.
I'm saying now.
Well,
go ahead, my bad.
Oh no, it's all good. It's like if you're gonna make a film for shits and giggles, you know, save they were to make a film about black people in the hood and it was all white actors with blackface. Nah, stop. Just stop.
But that's not what I'm talking about, though. That wasn't what my question was, though. My question was, like y'all said, with Django. Django was acceptable because y'all said it was authentic and it was like a period piece. So I'm saying if somebody else did the same thing, made an authentic period piece, but with blackface, would it be accepted?
No, I'm saying I agree with you. I answered that and said I agree with you. Like, yeah, I could see that. I think that would, like, you have no choice. If you're gonna be accurate, which is what you would want to be on a period piece, you have no choice. But I'm saying, like, because when you were explaining at first, you threw Soul Man in there. I don't see the appeal in making Soul Man now. Like, I don't feel like that's gonna go over with. Like, it has no. I don't feel like there's nothing you take it from it. Yeah, exactly.
That's really why I would want to see it.
I know, with your evil ass, but the only thing you would get from it is, okay, this white dude, like I just said, this white dude pretended to be black so he could get ahead and took advantage of our blackness, which is what we've been tired of this whole time. Nah. So yeah, the backlash would be like monumentous. And whoever would sign up for that, like they gotta either be desperate for a job or stupid. So
I think what you're saying is that they can take the backdoor approach of it, maybe not make a Soul Man 2 or remake a Soul Man, but kind of how they did with that James Franco movie where they or Dave Franco movie where they're making a movie about the making of the movie, that kind of thing, or you get what I'm saying? Like that kind of thing of they could do that with even then. I think that's like a backdoor approach where, like, I want to remake this movie, but I know it can't be made, so I'm gonna make something about the making of the movie. Where I still don't think it would fly over well. So like, there's no point in it, and there's no reason to highlight. You know,
I feel like if the purpose of why you're remaking, like the purpose of why you're documenting, like, I want to show you. What's the dude name? What's the director's name that y'all said? What was his?
C.W. Howell or something.
D.W. Griffith.
D.W. Griffith. I want to depict how nasty and how, like, a white director, I want to depict how nasty and how fucked up this person was. But to depict that, I have to show the shit he did. If that's where you're coming from, I feel like it could. But I feel like there's gonna be some explanation to it. Like, you're gonna have to explain.
You're gonna go through some rejections. You're gonna go through some rejections.
For sure. Because every studio is gonna be scared to touch it because of backlash.
All right, that was another episode of Real Talk Podcast. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, and share.
And make sure you tell us what you think in the comments. Don't forget that.
And we out.
I'm still drinking. I'm still having a bust a nut and what's his name? Chino, Brandon Jackson. Y'all ain't watched the movie in a minute. The busting up bar and
Bro, I ain't watched that movie since I was 16 years old. What do you want?
Yeah, come on, man. Come on. Man.
We're gonna go ahead and cut that out. What do you think,
Yeah,
Terrell?
we gonna help you out to cut that out. Because you gonna get clowned.
You just came out of nowhere and said bust a nut.
You gonna go-
You watch the movie, you would know what I'm talking about. Son.
I mean, I know what you're talking about, but we gonna go from just us clowning you to the whole world or whoever watching is clowning you. Like, why would you just randomly say I'm gonna drink a bust a nut?
What you think?
The bar is a busting
wild.
nut.
What you think? What you thought?
Pause.
What's your answer, Terrell?